here we go. Cool, guys. Now, what happened yesterday? Where did we leave off? This is always where we like to start off of. We were at this high, if I remember correctly. And what did I say? I said that probably we were going to see a retest of these lower areas of the horizontal that I marked off here, and we did test it like to the T. And now the question is, are we going to bounce off for real, or is this just going to be a lower retest? We also did have a test of the point of commitment, just like I said, but it didn't hold because of course the bounce was not low enough, was not enough to serve as a accumulation phase for all the people who have been taking profit here. Like, there was not a lot of time to take profit here, so it made sense that a lot of people were still holding on and hoping to take profit on the retest. Now that all these people were able to do this, it's actually very fair to say that everybody was looking for a new entry point. And like I said yesterday, the big indicator was going to be the RSI. As soon as we start to see a strong signal as a bullish divergence, we might see a little bit more of a pushing down, but in order to really break this divergence signal, we are gonna have to push way below this low here at 11,400. So this being really far away, I do expect at least a little bit of a bounce up and then maybe a retest of the higher regions. But we're just going to start off by looking at the numbers, looking at what our SI possibilities are, and then bit by bit we're going to go over the higher time frames, and then we're going to see on a longer scale what the possibilities and the implications are. So let's get started. First thing we want to see is this bounce here has an RSI level of, let's call it 37.34. The lowest low here is sitting at 31.39. So we could have more of a push down in order to form a bullish divergence with this area, but already this local low here on the 1 hour time frame is more than enough as a strong signal for this divergence. And we also did have a few pushes lower, being here as well. Those were those levels. But as you can see, there was no significant support line on these levels. So yeah, we just had a retest here and we went back down lower to this last node here. Now, if we break down below this node, next levels are to be expected. But if we reach these levels, like let's call it 12,500, the question is, how much is the RSI going to read? Because the lower we go, I do feel that the signal is just going to be stronger as a stronger push to the upside. Of course, once we break this low, we are going to need a strong push to break this entire node that will form a resistance. So if we actually start breaking lower, we are not to be expecting a straight up full-on continuation like a lot of bulls are hoping for. But for now, the 12,700 area is holding. We start seeing a red little smudge of a candle here. And yeah, like you know, I keep messing up with the marking tool. Yeah, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens as this plays out further. Stochastics are angled nicely up, maybe with a little bit of a curl, but for now, nothing to be really concerned of. Um, like I said yesterday, this area, as we go down, this is a moment to start buying the dip. This was actually what I was expecting, because the lower we go, the more we are going to see a reaction to the upside. But this is already a really nice support area, and just for the sake of it, let's have a look at the lower area to see how strong this signal could be if we were to break down even further. Like, let's use the pigs indicator. Remember, I love to use pigs indicator. It is for free. If you guys want to use it, just go to TradingView. Make sure you have at least a paid account, because otherwise you will not have access to it. But then you can use the pigs indicator for free. He shares this. He put a lot of work in it. Guys, if you want to support it and you really made some good money off of it, just leave him a tip for all the work that he puts in it. But all this being said, let's have a look at our levels. So 12,500, just for the fun of it, on the 1 hour chart, would give us an expected read of 27.5. So like we said, this low here on the RSI is sitting at 31.39. So in my opinion, if we were to break a little bit lower, the 12,500 would actually be the local bottom, in my opinion. Of course, do not trade my opinion. Just have a look at how I manage my trades, how I analyze all this, and then look for yourself. The indicator gives me a read of what the situation looks like now. We're not going to break down within the hour. That's for sure, if we were to break down. So as time progresses, this read might end up being a little bit different. Okay, so this is why I keep stressing, do not do what I say, just follow my lead and do as I do. Okay, it's a very big difference. I'm not here to tell you where to put your trades. All I want to do is just share a little bit how I go over my daily analysis and how I'm making up my strategies and trying to think about what my future trades could be. And this is what I want to give you guys doing these live streams. Okay, now if we were going to break up to the upside, of course we want to know the other implication. How high do we need to go to avoid getting a bearish signal out of this? Because as we are going to start making a higher high, which is perfectly possible, the question is, are we also going to make higher highs on the RSI? Now, this area, I think we're going to have to forfeit it. We did have over here some bearish divergence. We were getting this retest of this area. As you know, on the 1 hour time frame, this was not a bearish divergence here. This was just a continuation signal. But on the higher time frames, we did see the exact opposite, where this this run up didn't actually close on this high. This is why, you know, higher time frames sometimes read a little bit differently, and as higher time frames have more importance, especially on divergence and stuff, it's safe to say that right now we are in a healthy situation. But let's just not take my word for it, and let's go have a look on the higher time frames. Now we are sitting on the 3-hour time frame here. Let me delete this because this is not valid right now. Here on the higher time frames, we do have a bearish signal coming from this point and this point. So RSI here is making a lower high here. We did have a little push down. Is this the end of it? Like I said, the only thing that can turn around a bearish divergence is a bullish divergence. This is why sometimes some traders like to trade from divergence to divergence, playing the bigger moves, which is actually a really safe, a really good strategy. It works more often than it doesn't. Let's say it like this, because sometimes you might just jump the gun. Sometimes you think that you've seen a divergence, but it can only get confirmed once it starts to play out. And then, of course, you already missed half of the run. So most traders like to take the bet and then just put their position as close as possible to where the stop loss should be, and then just see what happens, because the risk reward is much bigger. The reward is much bigger than the risk is, if that makes sense. Now here, what do we see? This local low, I'm going to delete this because otherwise this is going to become very confusing. And again, I don't have, this is kind of my jam, right? So we have this local low here that we just formed, and we were comparing to this local low here, and that corresponds with this area. So as you can see, we are quite some ways away, and there is quite some support along the way. This is why I have a strong feeling that we are more likely to see an uptrend, or at least a retest of the higher highs, and then coming from there, we just need to analyze it again and see where we are sitting to see whether there's going to be follow through or not, if that makes sense. But for now, on the down run, I don't think there's a lot of worrying to be done. If we go lower, I would just suggest buy more. Just grow your position, buy the dip, and eventually you're going to be in profit. Make sure if you play this kind of strategy not to play it with high leverage, because this is where you're not going to be able to take the pain and your position is going to be liquidated. I'm not saying if you take a position right now, you're not going to see red before you see green. Okay, this is very important to understand if you want to use such a trading strategy. Buying the dip, probably you're first going to see quite some red before it's going to turn green. Okay, especially, you know, if you make your TA and if your assumptions play out, of course. But I digress again. Let's have a look at the RSI here on the 3-hour time frame. We are sitting at 55.88, and this local low is sitting at 54.96. So for now, this is not a bearish divergence yet. Okay, you see how this changes as we go through the higher time frames. On the other hand, on the 2-hour chart, we do see a bearish divergence already. So this being seen on a 2-hour chart, on a 1-hour chart, but not yet on a 3-hour chart, I think for now this little retest to the upside, maybe to this green line here, let's set it a little bit lower, or maybe even a little bit higher. Let's have a look. Which one lines out better, this or this? I would rather go with this one here. 13,000, more or less. I think it's possible that we are going to see a rejection at 13,000 and then try to make a little bit more of a lower low until we start making bullish divergence on the higher time frames. On the other hand, because this is not finished, it's not black and white, there's many shades of gray to this entire situation. This is what makes it so fun, because there's so much to talk about. On the other hand, like I was saying, these little areas here could be considered as small local lows. As you can see, we do have a very much lower low on the RSI, while all these are lower, and this is a higher low compared to all this. I hope this makes sense. I hope I don't have to draw all these things on the map, because if I start doing this, the stream is going to start taking forever. And I promised myself I'm going to try to keep my streams a little bit shorter so that they are easier to digest for all you viewers. But where was I? You see, I keep talking a lot. We do have some bullish divergence on this area, but compared to this, wait, on the 3-hour chart, 54 and 55, this is just like splitting hairs, you know, it's almost the same level. We do have a higher low. This also is a higher low. So basically, this is just a healthy continuation pattern. So there's nothing negative to be seen on the low ends of this entire pattern. On the higher end, of course, we do have this bearish divergence, this bearish signal that is still sitting here, but seeing how RSI has been able to cool down a lot, we could assume that a big part of it has already played out. Of course, like I said, nothing is set in stone, and a lot is still to be played out right now. Worst case scenario, we go up, we do have a bounce on a higher high again, creating a lower high, and this is where I would start taking profit, and I would suggest being very cautious for either way, some sideways downward action, or actually a really strong retest of the lower areas again. Let's go up to the higher time frames. We are now sitting on the 6-hour time frame. The 6-hour time frame has stochastics snaking up in the bullish control zone, which we can see momentum was strongly to the upside, but right now we see a little bit of angling to the downside, as you can see. Also, the blue and red line are narrowing in again, so this could just be a rejection of the bearish momentum and just snake up for a little bit longer. Or we could have a little bit of a retest of the blue and red line touching each other and then going down again. I did draw this trend line here. If we start moving down, I will be using this trend line a little bit as a gauge, as an expectation to where we might find a bottom and start rejecting and moving back to the upside. Of course, remember, trend lines are just trend lines. They are not a rule. They're not a wall. They're just a line in the sand that if we cross, it means a lot. This is how we use trend lines, okay? Do not say like, hey, Sabri, you put the trend line here and stochastics crossed. Yeah, trend lines are made to be crossed eventually. That's what's going to happen. But as long as they hold, they can serve as a little bit of a help to compare to your price action and see if when it holds on a valid support line. And this will give your read a lot more validity. Okay, now let's have a look at the upside. Let's see what happens with the RSI if we hit 13,400. I'm going to do this on the 2-hour chart because right now the 2-hour chart is the one that is looking more bullish. So first of all, let's see what happens. Yeah, 13,400. Let's say 13,420, just for the fun of it, because I like the number. 13,420 would give us an RSI of 72.3. Now, where does that leave us? With this high, we would be in trouble because it would be a lower high. So, if we get a retest here, possibly, we are going to start turning a little more bearish because that would be a lower high, lower high, lower high. On the price action, it would give us a high, higher high, and higher high. Usually, all it takes is 3 strikes, and this is where we're out. Now, on the other hand, what would be interesting is actually to be making a little more of some ranging that would allow us for RSI to start reshaping and slowly making more local signals that would actually start to override this past signal. Now, what am I talking about? What am I talking about? Let's have a look at the past to show you what I am talking about. Now, this area here, major breakdown. We did break down from this local bearish divergence, and on the higher time frame, if I'm not mistaken, where are you? Yeah, this is it. This is the one. Now, we did make a lower high while RSI here was printing an equally same high. So what happened? Price eventually got exhausted. We started breaking down, and here locally we started making bullish divergences. We made a lower low, and a lower low. I hope you can see this. Lower low, lower low, lower low, and fourth lower low. Now here on the RSI we were making higher lows. So this local formation here was completely able to override this situation. And this is why we were able to get into a new trend. Now I hope that makes sense for you, that eventually the former highs that we were reading are not to be taken in account anymore. Yeah, eventually they're in the past. We started a new formation, and this is where we start building off of. So here, this is basically what we could be hoping for. Right now, on the 6-hour chart, all this, there are no real local highs, local lows. We could just as well keep going with our formation and go from there. We could start seeing a little bit more of a downside until we make a lower low with this area, except for this little peak here, on which one, even on the 6-hour chart, we are making a bullish divergence. How did I miss this? So that one here, and that corresponds with this and this. So this is actually really nice. This is a really nice and strong supportive signal. Now the only thing that we cannot have happen is making a bearish divergence just by popping up too prematurely and not being able to shoot up high enough. So this is what I would be looking for right now. Slowly, bit by bit, grow a position buying the dip, getting a full-on breakdown I don't think is in the near future. And as you grow your position, make so that you also think about your average of your position price, so that you drag it down as you go down. Because once we start bouncing up, you will be making more profit because your average is lower. Now let's see how high for this area we need to be in order not to have a bullish divergence with this one. So we are sitting here at 81.1, no, at 89.3. This is really, really high. So 89.3. Wow. That would be 14,580, guys. So I think even after a retest of the higher areas, I think first of all we are going to see at least a little bit of consolidation, and also maybe some lower highs, some lower price range as well. The diagonal line here is still valid. It could be used to be looking for some support at some entry lines, and this giving us more momentum to the upside. But I think for now, we are almost at the end of this run, short term speaking. Okay, doesn't mean on a long term, like months from here, like we could see much more higher highs. Let's move up to the 12-hour chart. So as you can see, the 12-hour chart is also looking very, very toppy. Stochastics are bouncing off of the red trend line. RSI has been curling down a little bit already. We had the high read at 87, 87 and a half. That would give us a price right now of, oh, this is fairly reasonable. You see how different time frames give us different reads. So here on the 12-hour chart, closing above 13,440, let's call it, would already be okay. On the other hand, as we are sitting now, a little bit of consolidation, a little bit of trending and ranging, maybe staying within this triangle formation, this would be a very healthy situation. So if we move up, remember to take your profit. If and when we move up, we don't reach 13,400 on a 12-hourly close, expect at least some negative ranging. On the other hand, for now, I would just play it cautiously. If we move down, buy the dip. There is going to be at least some momentum up. The lower areas are not a breakdown. They're just a retest and a nice accumulation. And the longer actually we range in this area, the better it will be for price on the long run. Okay, now just to close it off, because I'm going to try to keep this as short as possible, let's have a look at the other markets. First of all, as you know, I like to look at the dollar and see what the dollar is doing, because yeah, like I said, if the dollar moves up, usually markets are being pushed a little bit down. If the dollar makes a strong move to the downside, it's only party time for the bigger markets. And right now, stochastics are sitting pretty low, and on top of that, they're starting to curl more. They look like they want to curl down to see a little bit more of a downside. For now, this just looks like a continuation of the trend. I don't see any bullishness except for this area here. With this one. But of course, it got negated because of this being a lower low anyway. Now here we just didn't make the divergence level, because this is 28.9 and this one is 29.9, and probably if we start pushing down, we're going to negate this as a bullish divergence as well. So probably as the trend is going, I think we're just going to see more continuation. Not very aggressive, but there is going to be continuation, in my opinion. Now let's have a look at E-mini futures. Like I said, E-mini futures yesterday, it was looking like we could have a bounce off of these areas, and this is what we did. Stochastics on the 12-hour chart are angled like nicely up to the north side, which is only good for momentum. We are bouncing off of this node here, this one, and there is a lot of clear space above us. We do have a little smudge of bullishness coming from this area and this one. As you can see, higher low, and on RSI a little bit of a lower low. On the bearish side, there's nothing to be seen, so probably more up for E-mini futures, and then the S&P 500. We kind of see that same similar story with stochastics being curling up, trying to make a nice move out of the neutral zone. You know, I like to call this middle area the neutral zone. But apart from that, just straight up continuation. This is a higher low on the RSI, higher low on the price, just beautiful continuation. Nothing bad to be seen of. Probably we are going to see more high also on the S&P 500. So could it be that Bitcoin is going to start following the traditional markets again, or is Bitcoin decoupling? Is Bitcoin going to do its own thing? For quite some while, the two were very correlated, but in the past few days, Bitcoin was kind of starting to do its own thing. So this is very interesting as well for you to know this. Like I said, short story. Maybe a retest of the 12.7, maybe even a retest of the 12.5. Hopefully just a little bit of ranging within this triangular shape. This would be very, very healthy. Or maybe we're going to break out, but if that happens, I think we're in for a little more of a downtrend, and maybe we could even break down to see just below 12,000 after this happens. So keep an eye on this. Don't expect the worst. Don't hope for the best. Just go at it time frame by time frame. Go at it level by level, and use these levels to start planning where they could go to. Okay, don't hope from what I said now to go to the upper level that I told you, or maybe now it's gonna break down to the lower level. Don't do it like this. Wait and see. If we touch and bounce off of one of these levels, you know more or less what to expect, especially if and when you also compare it to what RSI is showing you. Okay, now I'm going to leave it with this for today. I think I've already filled up more than I should with all the talking and digressing that I often do. I wish you guys the best of the best. I hope you all stay safe, stay COVID free. Yeah, the pandemic is starting to break out a lot more. I'm not working for now for a couple of weeks, so my streams are going to be much more on the same time. Leave in the comment sections what kind of time would suit you better. Maybe this would help me find the right time to do these streams. Thank you very much for watching. I wish you all the best. Stay safe, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.